genre.
Welcome back to the Doctor's Companion presents Doctor Who The Long Way Round, the weekly podcast where we review and discuss every episode of Doctor Who, one doctor at a time. I'm Cass Fredrickson.
I'm Nick Jimenez.
And I'm Scott Corelli.
And today on the show we'll be discussing The Mutants, the third Doctor's 13th story.
Yeah, it always comes to this. God, and the fact that this isn't even the worst third Doctor story.
Yeah,
and
I don't know.
That's next
kind
time.
Of a toss-up. It's kind of a toss-up. My least favorite is Next Time. This one is pretty terrible.
Yeah, this one's bad. It's the fact that they're like two in a row is what is just like a real brutal beatdown.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. So yeah, The Mutants, which aired from 8th of April, 1972 through 13th of May, and was written by the just lackluster duo of Bob Baker and Dave Martin, directed by Christopher Barry, a favorite of this era, in terms of like people they hired a lot. So yeah. So basically, Bob Baker and Dave Martin had written last season's The Claws of Axos. Nick, if you don't remember by name, it's the one with the gold, like angel-looking alien guys. If you remember them with the curly hair, kind of.
Wow. I do, and that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Yeah, they have a thing that they do. And unfortunately, we're going to be talking about them 2 episodes in a row because they also wrote The Hand of Fear, which we're talking about next week.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I know. So they wrote Claws of Axos, and, they were submitting further ideas because they had such fun with Claws of Axos. Though, if you guys remember, it was their first screenwriting credit ever, was The Claws of Axos, and they had no idea what they were doing. And so Terrence Dix and producer Barry Letts were both sort of like keeping a close eye on them and like constantly rewriting them and giving them notes and like really just like babying them to a point where I'm just like, why? Hire someone else. Hire someone who knows how to write. I don't know. Literally anything, guys. So they invite them back because they came up with an idea that was about oppression of natives on an alien planet, and this was inspired by David Martin's concerns about the South Africa segregation policy. And also was aligning with Terrence Dick's interest in pursuing a story about British colonialism. So they greenlit the first episode, but he worked with them basically throughout the whole process of outlining this, giving them notes, being in the room with them, giving them ideas, really just, really hand-holding them through this whole process of writing a second story. He was like, look, you guys had a really rough time last time, and rather than never hiring you again, I'm going to hire you again, but I'm going to hold your hand the entire time and be really patient like a good daddy. I don't really understand this. I don't get this. I personally, like, if you can't write a script, I don't know why I would ever hire you again. But, for some reason they did and hired them so many times in the future.
Mm-hmm.
But Yeah, so they did that, and they eventually write the story. They wrote 1 episode a month is how long this took them to write. Because, again, can't emphasize this enough, they don't know what they're doing. So it took them 6 months to write this, and the story was appointed to director Christopher Barry. Most recently he had done The Demons, which we were very happy with. However, Christopher Barry really did not like these scripts, really didn't like the political undertones. I think Christopher Barry, being much more of a For Queen and Country type of fellow, really didn't like the colonialism stuff. And so was like, you know what? I'm not going to focus on that at all. I'm going to pull that back as far as I can, and I'm going to go all in on the sci-fi stuff. And no one was happy about that, but no one stopped him. And we get a story written by 2 people who don't know how to write. Script edited by a script editor who had the best of intentions for what he wanted the story to be about, and a director who had no intention of focusing on said intentions, good intentions. And so you just get this bland a fruitcake of a story. I mean, like where you're like, oh, I guess that sounds like a good idea in theory, and then you take a bite of a fruitcake and you're like, why would anyone eat this? That's kind of what this feels like to me. I really don't like this. I think it's boring and repetitive and blah, and I'm glad I'll never have to watch it again. Cass, I know you feel similarly, but Nick, did you get anything out of this one?
Yeah, no, for sure.
Okay.
I mean, like for weeks, possibly months, like you both have been really hyping up how awful this one is. Like, oh, the mutants. Oh my God, we have to talk about the mutants. This one's so bad. This one sucks so hard. And so this morning I was kind of like, okay, here we go. Like, I don't know what the fuck this episode is, but like, it's really rough. I was expecting like Minuet in Hell levels of like unpleasantness. And instead it was just like an episode of Doctor Who, or, like a story of Doctor Who, like, they're running back and forth through caves and Joe gets captured and there's an asshole bureaucrat and there's a rebellion that's brewing and there's like guards running around in a cave. And I was like, yeah, I mean, this is Doctor Who, and when the sort of colonialism themes and the sort of allegory for like the dangers of when an indigenous population's history is erased and kept from them, that can lead to confusion and violence. And I was like, oh, okay, like I vibe with this. Again, it's sort of like, it's not particularly, it's not like Twilight Zone where you're like, whoa, this is like really, that's a cool way to look at it. I was just like,
yeah,
oh, that's fun. Like they think they're turning into monsters, but it's actually supposed to be part of their evolution, but it's being damaged because of they're fucking with the environment, which is actually kind of even more potent and more resonant now than it was in the 70s, where we're seeing indigenous tribes, indigenous peoples having to deal with the ramifications of climate change now in the 20s. And so like, yeah, like I think bland is accurate. Like this certainly isn't the most fun episode of the 3 era that I've seen, but like, I don't know, maybe because I was expecting like wanting to like pause this and just stare at my phone and whatnot. I was like, yeah, no, this is Doctor Who. He even 3 even does some cool karate chops and he flips a guy. I like Cole. I like Stubbsy. I liked the Marshal, kind of counter to the Commandant in the 2 episode we covered last time. I liked how this dude did get more megalomaniacal by the time we get to 5 and 6, he was like, no, actually I want to rule the world and I want to be the emperor of the earth and stuff. And I wanted him to get his comeuppance at the end. So I guess he was like an effective villain where like every time they cut back to him, like, God, I can't fucking wait for this guy to get his. And then we get like another biblically accurate angel from these pair of writers, which is such a weird reoccurring theme.
That is weird. I guess I just don't think this needed to be 6 episodes. It probably
No.
only should have been 4. And I guess my other issue, and you're right, it is box standard Doctor Who, but it's also like nothing is done particularly well or in an interesting fashion. And so then it's like, well, if you're going to do the bog standard, can you just like do something, bring something to the table I haven't seen before?
Yeah.
And they're not, like I've seen this same story done better later after this, in like 4 and 5's era. I mean, even like Vengeance on Varos, which I don't like, is at least like being more interesting than this, I think. I don't know, but that's just me. Cass, what are your feelings on this one?
No, I feel like Nick said, like all of the themes in this are like really prescient and uncomfortably relevant still, like 50 years later. But it's very ham-fisted in a way that it's not interesting, and because it is all of these like standard, like, oh, the companion and the Doctor are separated, we're gonna wander around in some caves, there's gonna be a big misunderstanding, like all of these, like, not like, it's like a really mid episode, like all of the choices are really, really like middle of the road, but they're not executed well, so then it just like compounds for me. And it's not. At one point I did, after episode 4, I had to pause for a little while, and I was like, I need to go do something else because this is like very boring.
Yeah.
And I don't like shouty villain things. So I like it. The Marshal is like, ugh.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah. I think it's like, it's not even like fun to look at, because like even sometimes like, ones that I don't really care for, I'll be like, wow, but the costumes are pretty cool. Like the 5th Doctor story with the lepers, and then like the crazy like punk rock like pirate people. Like you're at least like, oh, they're at least interesting to look at, like even if the story isn't that great, but like even the costumes are just kind of like brown and drab and just like, okay. I don't know.
And like the hallways, like all the hallway sets.
Yeah.
No, and I think that I agree with. Like, again, I think this is as rote and as mid as countless other episodes we've talked about on the show, which is why I'm not as like antagonistic towards this one, because it's like, well, if I'm going to be mean to this one, there's like 12 other ones that are exactly this mid to me that I was like equally like, okay, I'm watching this week for the podcast. But what it doesn't have going for it is like, the mutants are very drab. They're just they look like kind of generic 70s comic book characters with like the brown wigs. And like the swords and stuff. I had the thought around like 2 or 3 that it's like, if this was like a drag race challenge of like, you have like 1 hour to write an episode of Doctor Who, and you just have to get it done in like an hour, this is probably what we would write, of like the overlords and the mutants and like the Marshal, because it really is like, this is like the kit that you get at the store of like, make a Doctor Who episode, and like you can remix it and do whatever you want, or you could just kind of paint the kit. And this is like that.
Yeah, except it took them 6 months to make this kit.
to make the kit.
To be like, oh man, we're out of all of the bright colors. All I have are brown and orange, and
guess I'll make do.
Oh well. And then at the very end, you're like, hey, I found the other colors. All right, and you just colored the god color characters with like the rest of the nice bright colors, and that's it. Whoa. Man. But this is the mutants. I think it's just like it really, like, if you're watching this in order, Nick, it's really like just the 1-2 punch of like, oh boy, okay, well, we got through that, like, it was too long and it's a thing we've seen a million times. All right, now let's go into the time monster, and you're just like, oh, Jesus Christ. Like,
which is another 6-parter.
Yeah, another 6-parter that's like all as exhausting as this one is. And so it's just like that's the other part of this that just doesn't do it any favors, I think. But in any event, let's talk about this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so in episode 1, we're basically introduced to every one of the key players, except someone is relevant later, but we'll get to that. So we're on this planet called Solos, and there is like an unbreathable atmosphere. The native population is like mutating, and the colonists, overlords, or like the Earth people,
The colonizers.
Yeah, the colonists.
The British.
They're eradicating these mutated natives. We're introduced to the Marshal. We're introduced to 2 guards. One is named Stubbs, and the other one is named Cotton. And we're introduced to 2 leaders of these indigenous people. One is named Ky, and the other one is named Varen, and they are in disagreement. Like, Varen is kind of loyal, like he's been cooperating to like keep his village, or like he's like a leader, so he's been cooperating with the overlords, and Kai's like a rebel. And there is like Joe and the doctor get involved in this because the doctor is in his lab, and there just is like this egg-shaped container thing that just appears. And he's like, "Oh, this is from the Time Lords. I have to ferry this to someone who it's intended for, I guess." I'm not quite sure why.
It will only open for the person that it's meant to be delivered to. Otherwise, it's just this like big dodecahedron that he has to carry around.
Why they can send it to him and not directly to the person that it's intended for?
Right. Why are they
explained.
meddling in the first place? You know?
Yeah. Also, why are they meddling in the first place?
But the doctor is basically like an errand boy. And he's very upset about this, but he does it anyway. And the TARDIS is like programmed to like land where he needs to go, but they don't give him any further information. So he just kind of ends up on this Skybase that's like orbiting this planet. And there's a, like a big old meeting. There's some assassination. And like the Marshal's in league with Varen, the native leader who's been working with him. So he basically like sets them up. He tells them that they need to assassinate the guy who's actually in charge of the Skybase, and then he like double crosses them. And the doctor and Joe are like caught and interrogated and what have you. So in the scuffle, Ky, the ruler of like the rebels, he like kidnaps Joe, and then they like go into the transmat pod thing, and then they get shot at, and then that's the episode ender.
So there's a leader. The colonizers have a leader. I don't know if he's like the president or the mayor or something.
Yeah.
And he tells like, the Marshal, like, hey, like I'm gonna give the natives like their freedom. They're gonna have total independence because like that's the right thing to do. And the Marshal's like, well, I can't have that. And so they're having this big meeting, like it looked like a cafeteria assembly. And he's like, okay, everybody, I know none of us like what's been going on lately, and Kai's like, freedom, and the leader's like, I know freedom, I know, like it's complicated, like I promise it's going to happen soon, like I'm with you guys. And then at that moment, that leader is assassinated, and the Marshal's like, it was the mutants, it was those dirty mutants, like they killed the leader that was trying to help them. It's almost kind of like the Warriors, I guess, and that's why Ky like runs out, and the doctor's like, hey, look, the thing's starting to open, you must be the guy that it's for. And then he takes Joe hostage because they're trying to kill him. So it's like, oh shit, if that leader hadn't have been killed, they could have had it looked like freedom was on the way, but then he gets assassinated because the marshal's like, well, no, I don't want them to have freedom because I like hunting them and I like having people to subjugate.
Mm-hmm. They when they like mutate from their humanoid form into like the bug form, when they start doing that, they're called mutts. Yeah, they're called mutts by the racists. They're like, kill the mutts. We got a mutt over here and all this. So originally in the script, they wrote munts, which was supposed to be like a combination of mutant. What's the other word? Mutant, transform or something. What is it? I don't remember, but it was like a combination. Oh, mutant native, and you like they shorten it. It's like a contraction of mutant native, and so it was munt, right? But they when they sent the scripts to the BBC was like, no, because like kids will just scratch out the M and write in a C, and like we just. Can you come up with a different racist term?
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Those
which
naughty British 70s school children.
Yeah.
Listening to the Kinks.
Yeah. They're going to start calling their teachers munts or something. You munt. We all know what they really mean, so we just can't have that. Yeah. So yeah, what is episode 1 ends with
them getting shot at in the transmat pod.
Oh yeah, Ky pulling Joe in because he uses her as a human shield, or seems to anyway. Yeah, and then the transmat thing happened before they got shot, so everything's fine.
Yes. Okay. So I think the most frustrating part of this episode for me is that like there would not be 5 episodes if that one guy didn't die. And also all of the cliffhangers in this are the sort that are resolved immediately. Like they're just like weird like cuts, like end to the episodes. And honestly, there's one, the episode 4 one, I honestly don't know how that resolution happens. But we'll get there.
I kind of really fucking love the cliffhanger to 4. I think that one was
okay.
I was like, that's great. And just the effect and just a character that I wasn't crazy about is shown the door in very extra dramatic fashion, and I was like, oh man, okay, I'm into that.
So episode 2, so Joe and Ky are on the planet's surface, which is a problem because Joe doesn't have an oxygen mask, so she ends up passing out. Ky like considers leaving her, and then he's just like no, and so he like saves her. He jumps one of the guards that followed after them and steals his mask, so Joe ends up surviving this one. And like the marshal has declared martial law, because is that why he's called the marshal?
I know. I just got that. I didn't watch this one with subtitles because I was actually able to like understand people's accents in this one, which maybe none of them. But it'd be really funny if in the subtitles it's revealed that he's been saying martial law the whole time instead of martial law. Marshall's law.
It's my law now.
It's Marshall's law.
And the doctor does some science. There's a scientist named Jaeger, and he's been doing like experiments on the atmosphere. He's like to the point where the atmosphere is like I'm not entirely sure if the atmosphere was toxic to begin with, but it's just like gotten worse. And it's a lot of like accelerating like climate patterns and weather and climate change stuff. And because they're trying to like terraform the planet and like make it habitable for humans. And it's going poorly.
Mm-hmm. Also, doing that would kill
all the
native people,
yeah,
because they breathe the other air.
Right.
Yeah.
So the Doctor does some science. I love it when the Doctor does science.
There's a lot of reverse the polarity going on in this story. Like,
yeah,
every
but he doesn't
time...
actually say the thing.
No, he doesn't. He just does that. He
Yeah.
he just reverses stuff like constantly in this story.
And Jaeger's into it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, wow.
Whoa,
you think backwards, and I like how your brain thinks.
Thank you. You Nazi.
So he's basically trying to figure out what's inside this box from the Time Lords. He almost manages it, but then it like the machine overloads. Honestly, there's a lot of running back and forth.
They find Ky, and then they do manage to open the parcel, and it's just like a series of slabs with etchings and hieroglyphs on it.
Yeah.
And Ky's like, I don't fucking know what this means. Like, we don't even know our old language anymore because that knowledge has been lost to us because of the because of the colonizers. And the Doctor's
Is
like,
that
shit?
Is that in 2? I thought that was in 3.
It's in episode 3.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because the Doctor, the Doctor's not on the planet yet. So Varen, the other leader, he is basically like he's on the loose, because he's mad that he was betrayed, rightfully so. And he like escapes, and they're like sending a bunch of guards after him, and the two guards, Stubbs and Cotton, they're like sympathizers. They sympathize with him, so they're like, okay, we're gonna try and get you off of the space station. There's gonna be like a power failure, and there's like this whole like plot. So the Doctor causes a power failure by doing science, like on purpose, because he's trying to get to the planet surface to get to Joe. And then for some reason, Varen like runs into the Doctor in the hallway and then just like decides he's gonna strangle him. And then that's
I think he thinks that he's a. There's a part where even Ky calls the Doctor an overlord, and Joe's like, "Oh, for goodness sake!" And Ky's like, "Well, no, like you have to understand, like I just assume all humans are overlords because like that's all humans have been to me." So I assume that's kind of what Varen is thinking as well. It's like, oh, look, an overlord. Time to kill him.
That's fair. I don't know. It's just I feel it's like super contrived, because he's trying to escape, and then he's just like, no, I'm gonna kill this guy first.
I liked we meet kind of a cool sort of mirror version of Jaeger later on. We meet another scientist. But there's this part in episode 2 where the Doctor is, because he's with Jaeger for a lot of this one, and he's admonishing Jaeger because Jaeger's like he refers to the genocide of the natives as a side effect to their tampering with the climate, and the Doctor's like, genocide is not a side effect, you fucking ghoul.
Yeah.
Like, and whereas later on we meet a scientist who is like more like, no, like my job here is to help these indigenous people, not like wipe them off the face of the planet because we need to terraform this planet for our means.
Okay, so
they're on Solos now.
Yeah, episode 3. Everyone's on Solos. The Doctor does some karate to get out of his chokehold. And then he's like, dude, I'm trying to help you. We have to work together. I have to find my friend, and we have to find Ky. And Varen's like, okay. So is episode 3 where we see the monsters in the cave? like the bug monsters, the bug mutants.
I think that might have been in 2. The first time that Joe sees him, like, this horrible creature, and Kai's like, no, it's a person. Like, that's my people. But they're getting mute. They think that they think they're becoming bug people because of the experiments,
and not that it's like just a part of their evolution as beings. It is weird though that like they evolve, like their chrysalis process or whatever is like we turn into a bug with like pinchers. And then we turn into like a rainbow-colored godlike being that like floats around. It's like, this is such a weird evolutionary process.
Not if you watch Digimon.
Yes, I was just going to say, it's like a Digimon evolution.
It's like step 1.
So many of the cute animals like turn into like weird angel people at the end.
Yeah. It's like step 1, kind of your basic little like being. Step 2, horrible creature with pinchers. Step 3, fucking like be not afraid.
Yeah.
Communicates telepathically. Yeah.
Oh my God. Let's see. The Marshal's gonna like flush them out of the caves with gas grenades. They're like attacking the caves to get them to come out of there.
Joe meets like Joe goes into this cave because she's afraid of the monsters, and she sees like this. She like starts hallucinating, like in the weird rainbow cave that we later find out it's radiation.
Sorry, Joe.
And the doctor, because the doctor and Varen rescue Ky because Ky is being like overwhelmed by all of the mutants, and he's confused because like prior to this they were relatively peaceful. Like he's been chilling out in these caves, and then the Marshal is like setting up a bunch of like he has like gas and like bombs, and he's gonna like completely shut off this mine, like this cave system to like flush out all of the mutants because he wants them dead, and then like he wants the doctor dead as well, and like that's where and then so Joe talks about her weird experience in the cave, and there's like this person who's in like a hazmat suit that rescues her, and Stubbs and Cotton, our friendly guards, they are trying to warn the doctor and like get him out of the caves, but then like the gas attack happens, and that's the end of the episode.
Yeah. And the Marshal is starting to suspect that Cotton and Stubbsy are like sympathetic to the doctor and Joe.
Yeah.
And so he sends them out into the caverns to find them, but really he's trying to trap them with our heroes. And because at some point the other guards are like, but Stubbsy and Cotton, they're still in there, and they're like, I don't give a fuck about Cotton and Stubbsy. Kill them all. I like Stubbs and Cotton. I thought they were both really fun presences throughout this episode.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Cotton, I wanted to see if you guys noticed something that apparently really bothered everyone on the production, which is that the character was written to have like use Cockney slang throughout, but for some reason Christopher Barry hired this African actor, and so he has like this African accent, but he's still like using Cockney slang. I'm wondering if you guys even noticed, because I'll be honest, I didn't, and then I was like reading about this, and I was like, oh, okay, I guess I'm just a dumb American that didn't notice that's what was going on. But apparently this was like a controversial choice, because they were like, why tell us that you're going to do that, and we'll just rewrite the dialogue so he's not saying Cockney phrases.
So fun fact about Rick James, the actor playing Cotton, he was born on Antigua and Barbuda, which are kind of like small islands in the Caribbean.
Yeah.
And so he later kind of almost like mirroring the episode's themes. After he went to acting school and was like an actor in the United States and the UK. Then he moved to England where he was in this. He later actually entered politics himself, and like went to try to improve the lives of. He went back to Antigua and was part of like the Freedom Party and like ran for office a few times.
Oh,
and
good for him.
I was just like, oh, that's cool.
That's nice.
Some of these guys, a lot of these guys, I was just surprised that he had a Wikipedia page when I was like looking up the episode, and I was like, oh, what's this guy about? And I was like, oh shit.
Yeah. Definitely didn't notice that he was like using Cockney slang though.
No.
I guess I just take it for granted. I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
This is Doctor Who. Sounds normal to me.
That's how they all talk.
Yeah. Oh man.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So episode 4.
Did we talk about Varen hearing that weird voice in his head?
Oh, because he comes back to his little village, and there's only one old man left, and like bang the war gong, and then he turns around, and we can see that he's starting to have on his back the spiky parts that the bug people have. Like he's mutating, and then Varen is like, "No, I'm mutating," and then he hears the voice being like, "Go to the cave of darkness and light," and he's like, "No, I'm not gonna." It's like he thinks it's a voice telling him to go die, like an elephant graveyard, as the Marshal says. He's like, "No, I'm gonna die in battle," because he's supposed to be this warrior, but like you said, Scott, he kind of just looks like a dumb guy wearing a dumb wig. So like, I was kind of eye rolling for a lot of his like posturing as like a big warrior guy,
Yeah, he's poorly cast because he's like very like short. He's like just like a short guy and like kind of like just like short and stout. He's not really. He looks like the administrator with worse posture and a long wig. Like that's like they look kind of similar. And you kind of want like the guy who I guess Perry ends up hooking up with. I don't know, but you kind of like want him to look like that, like
a
just
big
like
Brian
a big
Blessed kind
of.
of.
Yeah, we can't all be Brian Blessed.
Yeah, I know. I mean, as a truer statement ever been said. But like that's if you want him to be like this kind of guy, like that's kind of what you're looking for,
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's not what we get. There's a lot of you gotta squint a lot in Doctor Who when you're watching Classic Who. Like, just pretend this guy's a warrior. I don't know.
He's got a sword. He's cool, right?
This actor was available. Okay.
So episode 4, the hazmat suit guy that Joe thought that she hallucinated like shows up and it like beckons toward like beckons them to follow. So and they get to like this like bunker, this like lead lined bunker in the cave, and we're introduced to Professor Sondergaard, who I think he was like stationed on the Skybase for a while. Like he was interested in studying he's like an anthropologist. He's like interested in studying like the culture of the indigenous people on the planet. And then he like tried to report the Marshal for like being a genocidal maniac basically. And then he fled and has been living in this cave system for like years. And he's
giving off some real Lobot vibes, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
Lobot, and also the dude from last week.
Yeah.
Who I think was like Danish or something, or from Iceland or something.
Yeah. He's definitely giving off some vibes though. He's very bald.
Yes. He doesn't have eyebrows either. Is that like a choice, or is that just like what he looks like?
I don't know.
It's like the radiation.
Yeah. Oh yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Hey, you shave your eyebrows for this role.
Yeah, I work with radiation all day, every day. So I shaved it all off. I just,
Yeah, Joe might want to go get scanned after this adventure.
I know.
Yeah, for sure.
But as Nick said earlier, like in the previous episode, when Ky opens the box from the Time Lords, there's like tablets inside. So Sondergaard and the Doctor look them over, and they one of the things that I thought was kind of interesting about this episode is like the concept of like a planet that has seasons that last for like centuries. So they determine that it's like these tablets are like a calendar of some kind, and they kind of show like the life cycle of the Solonian people. And because like the Earth overlords have like wiped their history, like they don't understand like that their change is like meant to happen. And then like something about like the experiments in the atmosphere is making it so that they're stuck in this like bug mutant looking form, when that's not like, it's like the transitory
intermediate form.
Yeah. So the Doctor and Sondergaard are trying to figure out like how to set things right. And meanwhile, because like the cave system is kind of collapsing, the Doctor is like, Joe, you go with Ky and Stubbs and Cotton, like get out of here, like go back to the base, like we'll figure it out and we'll meet up with you later. So then they get intercepted by Varen, who like captures them, and they're like, we're gonna go take on Skybase, and we're gonna use you as like meat shields. So they go up there.
Because they think they still think the being bugs is like a mutation, like a disease. So he's like, Varen is like just fatalistic of like, well, I'm fucked anyway, so we're just gonna like storm the castle before we all turn into like mindless bug beasts.
So they try. It does not go well. The like Varen ends up like getting shot at by the Marshal, but the Marshal's gun like blows a hole in the wall of the
He just gets this
Skybase.
Ship. I don't think it really registered to me up until that point that they were in a space station.
Oh yeah.
And so when Varen just gets yanked into space, I was like, whoa, what the fuck? There's also this amazing part right before he dies where Marshall pulls out his rifle, and the actor Varen just like swings his sword once at the guy with a gun. And I'm like, what's your fucking plan? Like,
he's going to die a warrior.
Yeah, sure. Technically,
he brought a sword to a gunfight, but he's got to do something. So that's all he can do.
Also, while this is happening, like the Marshal is like super obsessed with. There's like an investigator who's coming from Earth, and the Marshal is like super obsessed with like, we need to terraform the planet now. Like, this is why we're here. Like, I'm not gonna lose. So then, like, he forces his scientist, Jaeger, to like shoot rockets at the planet with like the stuff to like terraform it, but because they haven't tested it, it like goes wrong. So like there's like rockets launching, and then like a guy getting ripped out into space, which sounds really cool when I'm talking about it, but like watching it, it's like very silly. So that's how this episode ends.
Yeah. But the cool thing about Jaeger is, I don't know if this was in episode 3 or 4, but Jaeger is actually the person to bring up to the Marshal and us, the audience, the notion that it's been spring on Solaris for 500 years. And now we're entering summer. And it was kind of cool how like the Marshal was like, you know, a maniac, just like a fucking moron maniac, genocidal like fool. And Jaeger is like a competent scientist and is able to like research the evidence and kind of make like, I think it's the seasons are changing, and like he's right, but ultimately because he's like just a tool to the colonizers and he's complicit in the atrocities, the fact that he's like not an idiot, it's not enough to like save him in like the moral the morality of a Doctor Who story. You know, he still meets a villain's end because he's doing villainous things.
Mm-hmm. Fuck him.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is where I have questions because they're in like a sealed off room. The Marshal, it looks like he's about to get like pulled into space as well. But like we hit episode 5. Joe and Ky and did Stubbs die at this point?
Stubbs dies. I think he dies like he gets shot by a guard while they're trying to escape the Marshal's office.
Oh, he hasn't died yet. Okay, so spoilers, I guess. So Joe and her new friends, they
Joe makes new friends wherever she goes. She always has new friends. Everybody loves Joe. That's the main thing that you have to know about this era.
So cool.
So they escape the room before it's like depressurized, like the space station depressurizes itself. But then like the Marshal is just there in the hallway already, and it's like, how did he get out? Like, what is this? Like, what is this?
He just dragged his way through like the vacuum. I guess space was clawing at him from the hole that he made. It just is able to use sheer stubbornness.
I guess I legitimately don't know how, because it's like you don't see him, and then all of a sudden he's there with backup in the hallway after they've left the room where he was dangling out into space, and I'm like, what?
No, he just did. He did full like Princess Leia, like in Last Jedi, like just
but with the power of hate.
Yeah, but with the power of hate.
No, it flies back to safety.
Yeah, the hate coming out in the form of gas and just pushing him back to the space station from the outside,
glowering the whole time.
Yeah.
Oh,
instantly
man.
recovers and is ready to arrest.
That's too cool for him, though.
I will say there was a subplot that was deleted from this, and I do wonder if it had something to do with this, and they just never came up with a solution. Because there was a subplot where all of the overlords were clones of themselves. Like it was like a moon situation where it's like one dies and they just clone another one. So I wonder if that's what happens, and they just never found an explanation for like, and they were just like, he gets there. Who cares? Like, whatever. It doesn't matter. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. That he died in space, and then they just cloned a new one, and then he was there, fresh as a daisy, ready to rock and roll.
Because like the edit is like, it's like, I think it like implies that. Like, I was like, is this like a new person? Like, yeah, no, that makes sense. That's weird. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, they deleted that subplot because they were like, it's too many things. And I was like, I think this could afford a few more things. I don't know.
Yeah. And like that kind of, that buys into like, I don't know, the kind of the themes of like, you know, the modern world kind of rejecting, you know, like dying is natural. This episode kind of also touches on like the natural cycle of life and like death and revolution. The idea of colonizers being like, no, we're so cool that we don't have to do that, and we're just cloning ourselves over and over again. And like, we don't even get new leaders or new thoughts because we're just cloning the same assholes over and over again.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know why they deleted it. But I think this is like a leftover from that plot line that was cut.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay, so the Marshal's somehow the Marshal returned.
I like the headcanon that it like Emperor Palpatine. It is a clone.
Yeah.
So
Wow, we went from the best Star Wars movie to the worst one. Just like zip zap. Here we go.
Oh my god. So the marshal's there with his backup. He immediately takes them prisoner again because it's Doctor Who.
Can't go an episode without somebody being a prisoner of somebody.
Right.
So glad we don't do this anymore.
I know. So the Doctor and Sondegard are also en route to the Skybase again. Sondegard, like, because of the terraforming crystals or whatever that were in the rockets, they didn't go off into the atmosphere. They like hit the ground, so like now they're contaminating everything. So he's like, "Leave me, Doctor, and I'll catch up with you." And the Doctor's like, "Okay." They have like they find like a crystal in like the heart of like where all this dangerous radiation was happening in the caves. And the Doctor takes that to like, he wants to like look at it in the lab and figure out what it does. Which is important later. Almost forgot about that. And the investigator from Earth shows up in this episode.
In 5? I thought he showed up in 6.
The ship shows up at the very end of 5.
Whoa, right. Yeah. He doesn't board until 6.
Yeah. So the
racism, the did a racism investigator.
We got reports that you were doing a racism.
That's not true. Isn't it?
Right.
Well, yes.
So they Joe they like try to escape. I think in this scuffle is when poor Stubbsy dies. He gets shot.
God,
but they manage to hail the investigator's ship and like tell them that the Marshal is like doing all these terrible things. And when the doctor's like also caught when he gets back on the space station, and he's like, Yeager's trying to get him to help him fix the mistake they made in the previous episode. So the Doctor does more science. And what else happens? Sondegard goes back to the cave. He tells the like mutants, like they don't attack him. He's like, "I'm your friend. I'm here to help you. We have to go to the space station." And they're like, "Okay." And we find out that they speak, which is like the first and only time one of them speaks. And like Joe, in order to like ensure the Doctor's cooperation, Joe and Ky and Cotton are taken to like it's like a fuel cell or something. Like it's like a room that's next to like where a bunch of like this irradiated fuel is either going to be like transferred or whatever. So they're going to be exposed to like a bunch of radiation imminently, as the ship from Earth like docks into the space station, basically.
Yeah. This is the part where go ahead, Nick. No, go,
I was going to this is probably the most that I was like, that's barely a cliffhanger, because it's like Cotton suddenly remembers like, oh, wait a second. That means when they turn on the thing, we're going to fry.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I was like, okay.
So I want to talk about the investigator stuff when we get into episode 6, but like I just want to mention this which is that, like, what happens to Ky in episode 6, where he goes through the full evolution process because they're surrounded by so much radiation, that it just forces it into fast forward. And so it does it like almost instantaneously, He goes into chrysalis form, the bug alien, and then godlike rainbow angel form. And that happens so fast. And everyone else in the room with him they're fine. And I'm just like, that was so much radiation that it forced him into fast forward chrysalis form. And yet all of you guys like aren't dying of cancer. Like, what is going on?
Yeah, because that happens in episode 6, right?
Yeah. But we get the it's relevant to like what the cliffhanger is, the lame ass cliffhanger. But yeah.
None of them can have kids.
Because like in episode 6, they're like, oh, he's like absorbing it all. But it's just like, okay, so did he like absorb all the stuff that you guys already had in your body, or like what?
Yeah, because the room still looks pretty yellowy orangey.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because I don't know, like they make like he's like, I don't know, I think we'll be fine for like a little bit, but then like. Maybe it's because it's like a concentrated, I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
It's all pseudoscience anyway.
Maybe the doctor has like a room in the TARDIS for like deradiating people like in Chernobyl or something.
Oh yeah. Meanwhile, Ky is like throwing a fit where he's like, I'm not ready to go.
No.
Because he's absorbing all the radiation for everyone.
Oh yeah. Cass, what is it? What's that thing that you can use in Pokemon? Like the crystal or something where you can just make your Pokemon just like evolve just suddenly, no matter what level it is?
Yeah, I don't remember what that's called.
Okay. So
that's really funny.
How many doctors regenerate because of absorbing too much radiation? Yeah.
Oh man.
At least one.
Yeah, there's 10, which I referenced. 3 does. 5 does. Yeah, it happens like too often, I would say.
Yeah. That's funny.
What happens to 13? Why does she have to regenerate? Because she also gets blasted with stuff.
Oh yeah, she gets blasted. The master just shoots her with the big gun, and he's like, and she's like, she thought she was getting away scot-free, and then he blasted her, and he's like, that's just because I'm a bitch, and then died. And then she was just like, God damn it.
Oh, I got blasted with the big gun, Yaz. I kind of hurt you emotionally now.
Does 9 count too? Because he like, but that's like time energy.
That's like time radiation.
Does that count?
I don't know if that, it's
in
the ballpark. Yeah, it's in the
genre of I absorbed too much stuff and now I have to regenerate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like 11 is the only one that it's just like, yay, I'm regenerating. He's like the only one.
That's because he lived for like 2,000
like
years.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Like twice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm tired.
Yeah. 12 was in denial.
Well, 14 technically got zapped with a gun.
Yeah.
But then he bi-generated.
Right. That was 2 in a row. Two big gun regenerations in a row.
So 15. All he has to do is just not get shot by a big gun, a big radiation gun,
or suck down a bunch of radiation. Yeah, that would be good. 12 got shot by a Cyberman. 10A got shot by a Dalek.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Yeah. And then
7 just got shot by
radiation.
A good old fashioned gun from a gun with a bullet.
Yeah.
Yeah. 1 dies of old age. 2 spoilers because it's fun. Yeah. And
dinosaur.
Then right. Yes, dinosaur.
How does 4? Is that also radiation?
No, he falls.
Does he?
Yeah. He falls from a tower.
Oh my God, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then cocoons.
Yes.
He's the only doctor to this day that regenerates via cocoon, Nick.
Wow, bring that back.
Yeah. 6 will never know. 7 gets shot by a regular gun. Not a big gun, just a bunch of little guns. Little regular guns. And then 8 forces his own regeneration by drinking that juice. The magic juice. Yeah. So that's
the magic corn juice.
So that's at least 3 that die from radiation poisoning, possibly 4 if you count 9.
That's funny.
Wow. So anyway, Ky also regenerates from radiation poisoning. In a way.
So should we move to episode 6? Because all of the weird stuff happens in episode 6.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the investigator shows up. There is like a sham of an inquiry. The doctor basically like lies because he still has like Joe hostage. They okay.
A jostage, if you will.
Joestage?
Joestage.
So the way that they escape this irradiated fuel thing is they climb through the fuel. They climb through like the gas like pump thing. I don't know how I don't know how else. Like there's like a probe that like docks in the thing and then it opens and then Cotton's like climb in and Joe's like what? And he's just like just do it. And then somehow they end up back on the space station. And they break into the like council chamber where the investigator's doing his crappy investigating. And they like this is like so chaotic.
I love the good scientist Sondergaard is like, come on, bug people, get up in the elevator, and they're like, no, and then they're like, all right, fine, fuck you guys, and he goes, and then one bug person just kind of like, okay, I'll get in the elevator, and then while they're investigating, he's like, hello, and he's like, look, a bug person, kill it, and then the marshal chases him down and guns down this poor bug person in cold blood, and then he's like, look, see, we have to kill him, and the fucking investigator's like, you're right. What I just saw was a totally justified killing.
That thing is a fucking monster. I, too, am a racist now.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm pretty sure I just saw it like running for its life. And this guy like guns it down.
Look at its disgusting pincher hands. Ugh. You're right. Genocide is the only answer.
What if this starts happening to Gen Alpha when they turn like 25? They start turning into bug people.
Wow. Oh, wow. Oh, man. Yeah. So, there's a lot of running around. The doctor like barricades himself inside Jaeger's lab, so they can like look at the green stone thing.
Yeah,
and they put it under a particle reversal machine, and it like jump starts the next stage of their of the Solonians' evolution, and then that's when Ky turns into the rainbow angel.
Yeah, like the doctor's like, oh, it does some technobabble thing, and then like he passes it off to Sondergaard, who ends up in the fuel chamber again, and they crank the radiation up, and then Ky like soaks it all in, and it turns into like this rainbow ghost, with like mind powers, and he just like waves his hand, and like people drop dead.
That'll teach him.
So the Wikipedia, not the TARDIS wiki, but like Wikipedia describes what happens to the Marshal as he is vaporized by Angel version of Ky. And I think even that is too violent. He just like blips out of existence.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, die, Marshal. And then Marshal's like,
yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's like wrap up where like the like Cotton's like put in charge of the space station until they can like leave the planet, and then the investigator's like, oh, this doctor fellow, I still need to ask you questions. The doctor's just like, okay, later. And then he and Joe like sneak back to the TARDIS.
So the TARDIS is in a broom closet, and the doctor's like, well, we sure did a clean sweep of this place, right, Joe? And Joe's like, no, I'm not giving you that one.
How dare you?
Yeah. People died.
There was almost a genocide. I just want to go home. Yeah.
Oh, I like how she had his Sonic. That was cute.
That was cute. Yeah. Probably she knew how to use it. Probably would have came in handy all those times that she was like locked up in places. But, you know, what are you going to do?
What are you going
to do? Yeah. And then that's that. That's the mutants. Cotton's in charge now.
That's good for him.
Yeah. And I guess all the bug guys are going to turn into those rainbow gods. And hopefully not do I don't know, like blow up Cotton and all of his people. I don't know. I just there's not like a lot of wrap up. Like it's really just like we got to get out of here as fast as possible. What can we do in 30 seconds? You know.
I like to think that the Solarians evolved into those beings that Kirk meets in Arena. They also had like a bowl cut thing going on.
Right. That's right. Yeah. That's very true. So that's the mutants. Next time we're going to talk about the time monster with the third Doctor.
Maybe I'll hate that one.
I don't know.
Maybe.
We'll see. I hope not. You know, I hope not.
Yeah. I mean, like literally, I was like, fuck, is this even going to be like a 30-minute episode? Apparently this is like the worst thing to ever happen in the show. And, you know,
it is definitely not.
Yeah, it's definitely not the worst thing. It's just one of the worst third Doctor stories is the thing. Which, I mean, I guess, you know, could be worse if that's the case. But the could be worse might be our next third Doctor story. Who knows?
Well, what's the other one you guys said is really bad? Hand of Fear?
Well, no, that's just written by the same people as Hand of Fear.
Okay.
Hand of Fear is like, it's whatever.
I don't really remember Hand of Fear.
Right. And that's kind of its legacy, is that the only thing that people remember about it is that it's Sarah Jane's last episode. Yeah. So we say goodbye to Sarah Jane Smith next week. Of course, it won't be the last time that we talk about her, because we will circle back to the beginning of her story down the road. But for now, we say goodbye to Sarah Jane next week on The Hand of Fear. And I think that's that. We'll talk to you guys then. Bye, everybody.
Bye.